how this mirroring effect actually works. And if we are unaware of the specific beliefs creating an undesired reflection, what is the most effective way to uncover and shift them?
Well, if you have what you are perceiving as an undesired reflection, of course, depending on whether you're negatively judging the reflection or whether it's something truly out of alignment with who you are, of course, is the first question you ask yourself. The idea, again, is self-investigation. If it is truly not your preference and feels uncompatible and undesired, again, you would have to ask, by understanding how things work, what are you getting out of having this reflection? What are you learning from this reflection? How can it help you move in a different direction? So you still have to know it's there for a reason, as we have said. There are no accidents. So if it's there for a reason. What is it trying to show you? What are you learning from it? What are you holding on to that you think you need that maybe you don't need? So again, it requires deep self-investigation to find out why you would hold on to something you don't prefer, because you will always do so because you believe it benefits you. You have to understand the motivational mechanism and how it works. But that will be the beginning of the dialogue, the internal dialogue, that will help you understand why you're getting the reflection that you're getting, or perhaps why you're judging the reflection negatively that you're getting instead of using it to your advantage, since there is always a reason why everything is there.
Okay. And if physical reality is an illusion reflecting our beliefs, what belief structures create life-threatening allergic reactions, and how can one deprogram that matrix without dying in the process?
Of course, again, there may be many different reasons, as there are different people, for having allergic reactions to things. One of the most general reflections is self-rejection, and therefore that being represented by the idea of the nature that surrounds you or you find yourself in. So it has to be something that perhaps for most people needs an investigation into what parts of yourself are you rejecting. Have you learned to reject? Have you learned to judge negatively so that you don't, quote unquote, belong, so that you don't fit in, and therefore are rejected allergically by nature? Now, it can be something different as well. But again, for most people, it has to do with issues of self-rejection.
Okay, thank you. How should this person handle a behavioral secret that they have kept from their family due to differing beliefs? They have no negative feelings about their choice, and they don't intend to change them, but also know that sharing would cause their parents and their family heartbreak.
Pay attention to what we have already said and described about the idea of consequential secrets. The idea is not necessarily to reveal something, but to simply stop the behavior if it is something that, if revealed, would have detrimental effects on others, not because of their belief system according to your belief system, but because you know it would actually break a trust or confidence or have detrimental effects from something that you have established. So what we are saying is it's not about the revealing of certain secrets that are simply representative of your personal preference that are correct for you. You don't have to reveal anything that is your personal preference that's correct for how you wish to be as a person, if you know that it might be something that will upset others. Because then the idea is that this is simply in the domain of others to not necessarily choose to be upset by the choices you're making to be your true self, if that's what's happening. So we're not talking about the revealing of personal preferences that someone else might find upsetting. We are simply talking about the idea that if you're holding on to a secret that represents a behavior that you know, if revealed, would be the idea of dismantling the trust that exists between you because of what you have established with them, having to do with the circumstance and situation that you may be going against. It's about just stopping the behavior so that you don't have the secret anymore. So that if someone asks you, is this happening? Are you doing this? You can honestly say, no,
And this person is saying that if everything is synchronistic and they attract the perfect lessons that they need to learn, does it make sense to, for example, wear a helmet on a motorcycle or have insurance? If they're positive, and then every experience, every disease, every injury is welcomed as a beautiful opportunity for growth. Do you still protect yourself? And is there even anything like protection, as I cannot protect myself from my own reflection anyway?
This is a person who is not getting the point that is existing even within their own question. Of course you protect yourself. The idea of asking, do I need to protect myself by wearing a helmet if I ride a motorcycle, is the result of a lesson you have learned. So the idea is not to avoid those obvious things that can protect you. Stay grounded in this, stay balanced in this, and understand that the whole idea, perhaps in your society, of wearing a helmet or having insurance are the results of learning lessons to protect yourself. It's not about trying to avoid the obvious. It's not about trying to be so spiritual that I don't need to do these things. It's about understanding how things work in your reality and learning the lesson. Of course, wearing a helmet will protect you, because that is the lesson you learn if you fall down and injure your head without a helmet. So the things that you're talking about avoiding are actually the lessons you need to learn in a typical physical reality.
That's really a great understanding, you know?
Yes.
Um,
Don't be so spiritual that you forget that following the lessons of physical reality is just as spiritual as anything.
Now, this questioner is saying that her boyfriend completely refuses to believe anything that has to do with souls, UFOs, ETs. Did he and other people who think like him choose the experience of being closed-minded about these topics before incarnating on Earth? And if not, is there a way to help them wake up?
There may not be. Yes, it is a situational choice of the spirit to know that they are going into a reality where things like spirit, UFOs, ETs, the expansion of consciousness are going to become part and parcel of the expansion of humanity in this particular time frame, in this day and age. Therefore, going into the idea that they have fear about these things and refuse to acknowledge that they could be possibilities is part of their particular choices and lessons that they have chosen to learn. They may not learn it. It may be their life path to not open up to these things, but that's all right. Again, it may simply be an opportunity for them to realize that these things do exist. They're simply afraid of changing their entire worldview paradigm at this particular point because they have a belief system that says they cannot handle it, or that everything would come crashing down. There's really no way to allow them to wake up to the fact that these things exist other than gentle conversation, gentle exploration, if they're willing to be exposed to it. But again, it's not necessarily your job to convince them of these things, because you don't know their life path. Their life path may be to deny these things until a certain point where they will wake themselves up by putting themselves in a circumstance that is undeniable. But we'll see if that's what they have chosen. There's no way to assume that that's what they have chosen.
Now, this questioner is asking if you could clarify what you mean about a theme for this life. Do you mean what passion we choose to follow, what our main purpose is in coming here? Or do you mean what shadow aspects of our character are we going to deal with in this lifetime?
Both. It has to do, your theme, with both the passions that are representative of who you are and the letting go of the shadow side that represents who you are not. So this is why we say the greatest challenges that occur in your life are usually representative of your themes, both positive and negative. So it has to do both with being true to yourself and acting on your passion, and at the same time letting go of the things that are not who you really are, letting go of the fear-based beliefs. So it's both.
Okay. And this individual has these really interesting synchronicities. They frequently notice plumbing related signs, billboards for plumbing, trucks and vans advertising plumbing, and even times when they searched for restaurants on Yelp and they still only get plumbing services to appear. What is the synchronicity of plumbing trying to convey? Could my higher self, guides, or angels be sending me a message? And if so, what might that message be?
You might have some pipes that need to be unclogged. So it might be a way of saying you need to clear out your system, perhaps both energetically and even physically. It might have things to do with your diet. It might have things to do with your health. It might have things to do simply with belief systems that you need to let go of to clean out your pipes, so to speak.
Great. Um, could you help this person bring more understanding to the concept of money? For them, it feels very abstract. When they receive other forms of abundance, money seems more complicated for them to receive. And they experience a paradox where personally they don't need money, but at the same time they need it to pay off debts, live comfortably, and be financially independent.
All right, well, this is the opposite of what is typical for many people in the sense that most are focused on money at the expense of the other forms of abundance, whereas this person is expressing the opposite. They're okay with all the other forms of abundance, but they have issues around money. And therefore, they're not actually allowing money to be equal to the other forms in much the same way, but in the opposite sense that most people are understanding that they have a focus on money, but are not allowing the other forms of abundance to be equal to money. In this case, this person is not allowing money to be equal to the other forms of abundance. So they're going about it in the opposite way from most people. They have to allow money to be just as valid, just as equal, just as easily attracted when necessary as any other form of abundance that they find they are easily able to attract. So it's about getting into an understanding of why they may have a specific relationship with that particular form or expression of exchange or abundance on your planet that somehow makes it stand out more differently than any other form of abundance that we've talked about that they may find more ease with.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And this person is saying they're passionate about self-expression, self-exploration, personal development, and growth. And reading and discovering new knowledge like what you offer is something they truly love. And this journey has been their way of understanding why they've felt so unhappy for so long. Thinking about my path, I realize I'm passionate about sharing what I learn with others. I want to start coaching to help people discover themselves and break free from feeling stuck. But what holds them back is this feeling that despite all the coaching and permission slips they've encountered, they still feel stuck and haven't found lasting joy. How can they support the idea of coaching when it hasn't fully worked for themselves?
You will learn what you need by actually taking the action of coaching. You learn by doing, you learn by experience. You will grow. You will gain insights, but you have to start the actions. This is of paramount importance and why we say you have to act on your passion. It's the action, the physical action that will bring you more information, bring you understanding, bring you inspiration, bring you what you need to help others as well. So you have to start taking the action. If you don't have the actions, you're not going to gain more experience. You're not going to gain more knowledge. You're not going to gain more ability to help others if you don't help yourself by actually taking the actions to help others too. That's how you learn. You help them, you help yourself.
Is feeling stuck also a form of procrastination?
It can be. So again, it may be, oh, I'm not worthy yet. I'm not capable of sharing anything yet. It may be self-judgment. It may be many things. And therefore, you are not taking the actions. You are waiting. You are procrastinating, using it as an excuse because you don't think that what you have to give already is worthwhile. So yes, it can be a form of procrastination.
And so the idea of taking action in some form in that direction can eventually help you break through whatever barriers to understanding your
Yes.
issue is.
This is why we sometimes say if you feel stuck, go and volunteer to help people in some way, shape, or form other than what you would typically do. It will get you out of your head. It will get you out of yourself in a good way. You will start to learn things and then perhaps can transfer those lessons by volunteering for something other than what you would typically do that will then be transferable to what it is you are truly passionate about. So one way or another, the actions you take to help others in some situation, whether immediately representative of your passion or not, can unstick you by putting you in an unexpected situation where you're being of assistance and being of help to others. It can transfer to what you actually ultimately would prefer and are passionate about doing. Just take the action. That's the most important thing. So if you can't take the action in the direction of what you know you're passionate is about, go and volunteer for something unexpected, helping people, feeding people, clothing people, reading to people, building houses for people, whatever it takes, volunteer to help, and you will find yourself getting unstuck not only in the idea of the actions you take in your volunteer work, but also getting unstuck in the direction of your passion as well.
And does the idea of chaos, when it arises in physical reality, also provide an opportunity to be unstuck?
It can because it turns everything upside down, everything is unexpected. And when everything is unexpected, then all bets are off, as you say. That means anything could happen. And you can take advantage of that stream. You can take advantage of that momentum. Anything can happen, including the things that are representative of you acting on your passion. So, by all means, you can take advantage of things loosening up in a positive way. And that's again the importance of staying in a positive state so that no matter what happens and no matter how chaotic something may seem, you will get the advantage of using chaos to your benefit because now all bets are off and anything can happen to your advantage.
And in line with that, that idea of history repeating itself, and like you were saying about protection, things we've learned,
Yes.
how does that factor into the idea of things being chaotic and still allowing for the idea of learning from history?
History, as you say, repeating itself is simply another way of saying you're always given another chance to change things in a way that you would prefer to. If you haven't learned the lessons will always come back until you no longer need them. So when you decide to use the repetitions in your history, the cycles in your history to actually learn the lessons of how to do things differently, this is what we were talking about before about the pendulum swing to the extremes. Until you learn the lesson to stay balanced in the center, the same lessons will always come back. The same opportunities to learn the lessons will always come back. Earth is a planet of cycles, and this is one of the cycles. You're always given another opportunity to learn the lesson. When you learn it, you end the cycle.
practice, practice, practice. But you have to understand the principle clearly enough to use it to your advantage. And one of the principles that's important to understand is when you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, that feeling is the result of a negative belief telling you that there's nothing you can do about it and you buying into it unconsciously.
So, in a sense, it's like getting to the point where you don't empower negative beliefs and believe that they're stronger than your positive beliefs.
Because
Or,
that's another belief, isn't it?
yes.
There you go.
Okay, the next question is I'm eager to know who is vocally channeling through me. This individual is saying that, and that they sense the presence of this energy around them all the time. They also wonder if the fatigue they're experiencing is a result of the energy's presence.
If you're not used to higher frequency energies, yes, you can be tired by processing it. We would suggest that for right now, you allow yourself, if you're going to do vocal channeling or something of that nature, automatic writing or what have you, that you simply continue to practice without wondering who it is right now, as long as the information coming through you is positive and constructive, self-empowering for others and not controlling. Don't worry about the source right now. Allow yourself to know that your higher mind is involved, spirit guides are involved, your soul family is involved, your angelic beings are involved, your team is involved, your non-physical team is involved in some way, shape, or form. ETs may be involved, extra dimensionals may be involved, elementals may be involved eventually as well. But the idea is to practice getting used to clearing out any negative fear-based beliefs, any erroneous definitions that may be inhibiting your ability to process higher frequency energy and information, and just let it flow through you and don't worry about what's coming out right now or who it is. Those are details that will reveal themselves in time. Again, as long as you feel that the information in some way, shape, or form is beneficial, not controlling, but self-empowering to yourself and others, and giving you an opportunity to grow and learn lessons that are important for you in your life, then just keep practicing.
And our next question is, what does excitement feel like? I've been able to differentiate between anxiety and my neutral excitement through my intentions at the time, but it seems like an unnecessarily long process of elimination. Is this high vibe state of following my excitement supposed to feel neutral, or should it feel, as commonly put, exciting?
It can feel either way. As we have said, even a neutral state is a positive state because it allows you the freedom to make a choice. The idea is, again, to know that acting on your passion doesn't mean you have to be jumping up and down. It can be a state of very calm acceptance and gratitude and appreciation. It can be a very meditative state. It can be a state of contentment, contemplation, many different kinds of experiences. But you just have to know that what you're choosing is truly in alignment with what you prefer, that it represents who you really are. That's really the thing to focus on. Then whatever feeling comes with that will contain whatever energies it needs to contain to bring you awareness of the lessons you need to learn and bring you clarity about what it is you're actually choosing and whether it is in alignment with who you prefer to be.
Thank you. This one is, could you please elaborate about how this reality actually functions? I've heard you say that this reality is not real. Each of us is sitting in a room by ourselves talking to our own higher selves. If every person we interact with on this planet is our own version of them, do we ever actually interact with any real souls, or is everything just a reflection that each of us manifests?
Everything in physical reality is a reflection of what you're manifesting, but you are interacting with real souls. It's just that in physical reality, you are interacting with your version of them, your creation of them, in the same way that when you talk to someone over your computer or your telephone, you are interacting with an electronic representation of them. So you're still interacting with a real being, but when you see somebody on your computer screen, you're not interacting with the actual being in that moment. You're interacting with an electronic presentation, electronic representation of them. So it's sort of like that. The idea that physical reality isn't real doesn't mean the experience isn't real, doesn't mean the connection isn't real. It's simply the methodology that we're describing about how you make that interface. We're simply saying the interface, in a sense, is one step removed, just because that's the nature of how physical reality is created. It's like you're creating a screen and receiving your version through your belief system filters of what that person represents to you, what that being represents to you, and they're doing the same with you. But you're still interacting with real beings on a higher level. It's just that you're deciding that you're going to interact with each other through this filter for the purpose of getting in touch with your belief systems and what you need to experience on your life path. That's just the way it works in physical reality, because you're creating the simulation. So that's what you're doing, is you're using the simulation to get a reflection of what it is you're putting out, so you can use it as a guideline to figure out what you need to focus on. But you're interacting with real souls, of course.
So why do people manifest things like abandonment, or being in love with someone that's not in love with them, or
A
all kinds of
million
things?
different reasons. Again, case by case. Everyone has a different life path and everyone is learning different lessons. You have to take it on an individual basis. I can't give you a general answer that addresses every single case that you're bringing up.
So in the sense of having the attitude to have that you're manifesting things where people aren't cooperating the way you want, or whatever the behavior is from people you care about that is not supportive of what you prefer, what is the best way to look at that in terms of how physical reality works?
Well, first and foremost, always check in with yourself to make sure that you don't have expectations based on fear-based or negative beliefs that are out of alignment with the lessons you really need to learn in a situation like that. Secondly, you can observe that maybe the other people involved are also learning their lessons and need to look at certain things for themselves as well, and that you're working this out with each other by processing and communication and whatever processes you need to go through to gain clarity about what the interaction is all about and why you are experiencing it in the way that you're experiencing it. But always, first and foremost, check in with yourself to make sure that you're not insisting and that your expectations are realistic and truly representative of what's going on, that are the things you need to learn for your life path. Then you can investigate, perhaps, if the other people are willing, what's going on in their life path. But always start with yourself.
So the attitude to take whenever you're encountering beings in your life that are not in the relationship the way you prefer is to
Always,
just
as we have said, in the simplest possible way, you always check in with yourself first and say, is there something in this situation that helps me understand more about what I'm putting out? If you truly have an honest self-assessment that it has nothing to do specifically with lessons that you need to learn about your own belief systems, then you might next, as a next step, say, all right, well, Maybe I'm here to reflect to them something that they need to understand to help them with their life path and their life lessons and their belief systems. But usually in your society at this point in your evolution, it's going to be something that works in all directions for all people concerned. There is always something each person can get out of it to learn about what they need to learn to become more of who they truly are. That's why relationships are so important to understand as reflective to each other to help each other become more of who you actually are. It's very rarely only in one direction. There's always something every party in a relationship can learn for their own life path.
Okay, maybe this is the same idea, but this person is asking, are the challenges, trauma, and relationship issues we experience solely our own creation, or do others, circumstances, situations play a role? Is anyone truly at fault, or is there a better way to view the interconnectedness of it all?
We would not use the term at fault. We would use the term life path choices to learn lessons to help your soul grow. So it depends upon the facility that you have to divine what those lessons are, absorb them, and learn them that gives you greater and greater clarity and more expansion in your consciousness by understanding that whatever scenario is happening, there is something you can get out of it that has to do with your life path, and that your life path is always intertwined with other life paths as well in the way that we've already described reflectively. No one is isolated. All life paths are interconnected. And the idea is to get out of it what you need to learn for yourself and to help the others also get out of it what they need to learn for themselves. But always start with yourself and what you need to learn.
Okay. And can you please share your perspective on compassion? In this person's country, the word is primarily associated with sympathy and pity. While they've never fully resonated with that definition, they find it difficult to separate compassion from feelings of pity. How can you understand that and experience it in a way that is more aligned?
Use the analogy of a parent and a child. When a child doesn't understand something yet, they haven't learned a certain lesson yet, they haven't learned how to navigate certain things in physical reality. Do you sympathize? Do you pity them? No. You have compassion that they are on a learning path. You love them no less, and you hold a space for them and teach them how to learn those things in a constructive and positive way. That's the feeling. You understand that they are on a path where they have chosen to learn certain things in a certain way. You hold a positive, loving space for them to be able to do so. That's what compassion is. You look beyond the idea of what may appear to be momentary and temporary limitations to the broader and bigger picture that they're on a path of learning certain things, and you don't pity a child for not knowing them. You have the largesse and the compassion to create a space for them in which they are invited to grow and to learn, and to see them as powerful souls that have chosen these lessons, that have chosen this life path to learn those lessons in that way. Pity is not necessary and is not involved when you have compassion for others. So think about the analogy of a loving parent and a child. That may help you.
And on your level, do you experience pity at all?
No. Why should we?
The next question is discussing problems or issues in the world inherently negative or disempowering? Does talking about these topics give them reality,
Or is it more beneficial to focus on positive and trust in the perfection of things?
Well, why can't you do both? Why isn't it this and that instead of this or that? It's not about avoidance. It's about constructive conversation, constructive and positive communication about the things that you think are important to change in your society. Avoiding them isn't the issue. You can focus on what you prefer, but that doesn't mean you avoid the idea that you're still part of a society that is dealing with certain issues and that you can add your own constructive point of view that may in fact help the situation be resolved in a positive and constructive way eventually. So it's not about avoidance. It's about inclusion. It's about communication. It's about willingness to participate and be involved because you're part of a society that is dealing with issues that need resolution. But come at it from a positive and constructive point of view, knowing what is possible, knowing what is probable, knowing what could be more beneficial. But the idea is engage, but engage in a positive way. It's not inherently negative to discuss things that themselves might be negative. If you approach it from the idea of how can we make this more positive and more beneficial for all? So, of course, it's the style of the approach that makes the difference. Remember, again, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So it's not about the idea that you're discussing things that might inherently have been created negatively that pulls you into negativity or reinforces the negativity. It depends on how you approach it, of course.